Zona, The Secret of Chernobyl, the board game that I want to play more because it's pretty atmospheric. But I don't have any friends. Thankfully, it has a solo mode, and today I'll be playing that as the Smuggler. I'll be painting up the model as well, and I've nearly completed the set now. Specifically for the Smuggler, I have a few character-specific items that might come in handy. A jacket, some paperwork, the crowbar, one of the best cards for the early game that I've never managed to actually have until now, and a spade, which is actually a passable weapon. The first turn was a little odd. I had a plan, but this strange old man walks up and, just hands me an artifact. Okay, I can probably sell this or use it to open one of the secret locations, but it's just odd, I guess, is what I'm saying. I'm not complaining, it's just odd. A few minutes later, I'm wandering past the barracks, and apparently that old man had given some rather poor advice to the soldiers there because they'd roughed him up. The soldiers had tried to capture some rare mutant, which had then escaped. Now I roll fairly poorly, but the jacket and the spade help me out, and I end up winning the trophy from that mutant and add that to my artifact. Now, my first few brushstrokes on the model were a lot more sensible. As the trader here isn't a military character, I went with some nice normal, rugged, outdoorsy clothes kind of painting. Blue for some jeans and a dark green for a nice warm jacket. I realised fairly quickly that this whole model isn't going to be difficult at all to paint. The jacket and jeans are most of the surface of the model, and it's fairly simple overall. For both of these areas I painted in a familiar style, mixing black into the colour to make a darker base coat, and then highlighting up into the colour for each area. And that makes some nice variation to bring out the sculpt of the model. I meander around the zone for a few turns, picking up items that I'm not necessarily interested in and trading them all away so I can buy the stuff I actually need. And more importantly, the things I need to get into the secret locations. Trudging back and forth isn't great in the zone. It's raining hard and I nearly drown in the mud, but clambering into the old building I managed to get some rest and dry off. My character has friends, or maybe just contacts more than friends, and one of them had gone missing. Well, I find their body and my instant reaction is to check their wallet and leave them be. Clearly, the Smuggler is a real blasé character. Back to painting the model, I flitted about with some minor details before I moved on to the shirt, which surprisingly took more of my attention than the jacket and jeans had. Instead of mixing black for my base coat, here I mixed a rich dark brown and highlighted up into an orange. Whilst this is somewhat the same process and that makes it look coherent with the other parts of the model, the different mix for the shadows using that warm brown gives it a decent visual separation, which makes it look far better than the tiny amount of effort I put in deserves. So I do manage to break my way into the secret location, the Emission Observatory, especially appropriate as I had just survived an emission in a safe zone whilst I was trading for yet more equipment. One of the eggheads in there, however, had locked themselves in a shielded pod. Well, I felt that freeing him might be the good thing to do, but more importantly, I can probably trick him into giving me some good stuff. And yeah, it didn't take long for them to calm down, and I got him to tell me all about the place and where all of the not bolted down valuables are. And yes, that valuable that I picked up is the blueprints that skip one of the challenges getting to the sarcophagus in the endgame, which is one I really like to pick up. I'm quickly approaching the end of the game and also the end of this paint job. I wanted to pick out a few details from the sculpt because it's a pretty nicely sculpted model. So I stippled some white over brown to make the fur of the jacket, and I even blacklined in the glasses after painting his skin. Like I said at the start, this is actually a really easy model to paint. I've not broken out any really technical painting skills. With another emission bursting in the sky, I managed to arrive safely at the research station, and I'm trading between all of the stalkers there, making myself quite a bit of money. I have a fairly good set of equipment, and just the last thing I need is to get one more item from another secret location. It's almost trivial to wander over to the Government bunker. The rain has stopped and the post-emission calmness makes the trip, well, dangerous still for sure, but quiet. The scientists there seem to have been growing some interesting mold strain in their own corpses, or maybe they died first and the mold moved in later, but who knows, I don't care. I swiped the loot and bail, heading for the roadhouse and one last trading session, where I realise I have managed to amass so much money that I can't even spend it all, so even if I can't find the secret at the centre of the zone, well, at least I'm going home rich. But that is where I'm now headed. So with the last chance to make sure I've got all of the stuff that I'll need and stuff my pockets with money, off I go. Sneaking into the sarcophagus was a little difficult, as you might expect. I used a lot of my equipment and paid off a few contacts to help me out, but getting to the control room was within my abilities. But I wasn't alone, a group of pioneers were there as well. Quick thinking and a silver tongue, and maybe an offer of some actual silver, made sure the pioneers turn a blind eye rather than turning on me. And I passed through into Lenin's office, it turns out, with the bribe freshly out of my fingers, but Lenin has other ideas. It seems he thinks that I will be quite useful. Oh no. Well, this has been a fun little trip back to the Zona board game. I had this series going a few years back and there's just one more model for me to paint after today. Now, some of you may be wondering about that other board game, and yes, I do have that, but it's a lot, really, it is a lot. I'll get to it eventually. For now, I have my trader who has earned half of the money in the entire zone, only to be recruited by the Communist Party in the end. Whilst these cards are random, sometimes they just line up absolutely perfectly like that. But actually I really like how the cards play out through the game. The story that I've told in this video is made just from those cards put together as they came out of the decks. Anyway, it's a fun little game and a nice little model to paint, and so that just leaves me to say I'm ED-SKaR, always will be, and thank you very much for watching.